Next up in our round of three markets and representatives from those markets is Kate Hornberger. Kate is a marketing expert who actually worked at ASI way back when, so it's nice to see you, Kate.
Hi, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being here. Kate now works at the Wharton Business School at the University of Pennsylvania, and she's going to be sharing her experiences with us in the education market and how that has obviously had to shift greatly over the last 6 months. So, Kate, first, before we even jump into it, what are your responsibilities at UPenn?
Sure. So thank you for asking because Penn is just such a huge school, so many different schools within Penn. I specifically work for Wharton, and I market to executives from all over the world who are in very high level positions, who come to Penn for a very immersive experience. So they come, if they're, let's say, a VP in their company and they're moving up to a C-level role where maybe they have more teams under them than they're used to having, and they need to expand their knowledge set or their skill set. They'll come to Wharton from anywhere from a week to 6 weeks. They stay there full time, and they'll take on these leadership or finance or strategy classes to help them just get that skill set under their belt. And so that's the part of Wharton that I work for.
Gotcha. Okay, so obviously, any school has changed greatly over the past 6 months, and how they've had to market themselves and just exist has changed greatly. So for you guys, what does the landscape of UPenn look like now versus, say, last year at this time?
A lot has changed. This time last year, Penn would have just welcomed back thousands of students, professors, staff, executives, like I talked about. Students would be settling to their dorm rooms. On any given day, you'd see hundreds of people just strolling up and down Locust Walk, sitting and chatting with what we call Ben on the Bench. It's a famous statue of Ben Franklin, and on any given day, all day long, you see a queue of people from all over the world waiting to take pictures with him. Makes you very proud to be from Philadelphia, such a historic city. But as of today, the vast majority of instruction for undergraduate students is online, with very limited exceptions like clinical experiences in nursing, where they absolutely have to be there in person or doing something hands-on. The graduate and professional programs, such as executive education, like I talked about, it's a primarily global audience, so they are facing travel restrictions on top of the campus being closed. They're all in the same boat. And I know, like exec ed, the part of the school that I work for they already know they're not inviting participants back for in-person programs until at least April.
Wow. So they've already put that date flag in the sand, so to speak.
They have, yes.
Wow. So what do you guys? How have you had to shift marketing wise to keep, or even just communication wise, to keep connected with students if they're all remote? How has that changed? What you do on a daily basis?
We have changed everything as we know it. We've honestly moved a lot of our marketing efforts online, like a lot of folks have in the education space. We've created, there was this transition time where we didn't have a lot of programs that were online or live virtual. And so what we had to do while we were ramping that up is, we still have these students or these executives that paid to come to school, and they're sitting home wondering, like, what are they going to do? And so we created this free live cast series with very relevant and timely content from what's going on, some directly from our programs that already existed, like leading through challenging times and supply chains and understanding the impact of the latest news in terms of the impact it has on your financial portfolio. And so what we started to do was just tease this content out, like, let's just offer it for free. What do we have to lose? It was only like a part of what you would have gotten if you had taken like a full semester or a week-long program. But it was just like, we wanted everyone to have something to work with and something that helped them during this time. And I believe that there's room for promotional products during these live casts in the form of like giveaways or apparel and signage in the background, similar to what Michelle's been doing all morning. And we build awareness of each and every new live virtual program that we've launched via email. We're using paid media, as well as like paid and organic social channels. At this time, we're using promo for very select, like we call them custom clients. So think of large companies who send groups of senior level executives to our school. So we are doing some promo products in that space, although we have cut back, and but we still want our participants to feel like they're part of the Wharton family. So we are doing what we can.
So, do you think that that's been successful? Like, how have your participants reacted, not just to the use of promotional products, or whatever sort of promotional products you've used, but also in offering of free content and doing unique things that you hadn't done before?
It's been very, I mean, it's hard to say successful because I have nothing to measure it against. I
Sure.
think it's helping. And like I said, we do a lot of studies where we'll go to past participants or even future students who have not yet taken any programs or classes, and we poll them and we ask them, like, why did you choose Wharton over any other school, or Penn over any other school? And one of the top, I would say 3, sometimes 5 reasons or answers is they want that brand affiliation. And so they want it on their resume. They're proud to be there. They want everyone to know. They want it on LinkedIn. They want to wear it. They want to, have water bottles that they're drinking up. They want people to know that they went to this school. And so I think that as long as we can deliver that, it makes people happy.
So obviously, Kate, everybody has had to shift and probably tighten their marketing spend. How has the pandemic shifted your guys' marketing promotions?
We've tightened up our marketing spend, like we had to. It's no secret the schools are not making as much revenue as they usually do.
Sure.
However, we also acknowledge the importance of marketing. We are, Wharton isn't like a #1 business school. So we acknowledge the importance of marketing and communication, creating awareness, especially during an economic downtime. In fact, we're seeing a major increase in interest in a lot of our new online programs, which has been really cool. And we've decided we're not going to stop. Even when things go back to normal, these online virtual live programs are here to stay, especially like for people who are realizing they now have time or newfound flexibility that they've never had. A lot of people, they're parents with young kids, like they can't commit to leaving their family for a week or 6 weeks.
Right,
So
of
this is
course.
giving them an opportunity to take advantage of the education that they didn't have before. That was always a challenge on my part from a marketing perspective. How do we get folks who have that challenge to campus? So that's been a success. And people who may not have, had the opportunity to travel to Philadelphia, now have the opportunity to take advantage of Penn education. So we're really watching the landscape of education just change before our eyes. It's very
It's
exciting.
it's interesting to think what it all might look like, 3 to 5 years down the line, as far as schools or universities in your case, or business schools in your case, are concerned. Will there be a mix of students that come from everywhere and stay where they are? I would imagine that that's something you guys have to be planning for at this point.
It is 100%. It is. Like I said, online's here to stay. So if we can do and we always had like an online offering, right? But it wasn't, these certification programs or these like extensive, immersive experiences these are the ones that I'm talking about when I say we're transitioning it to online. And so some challenges we've had to face are, these executives want to learn from other executives. They want to hear from their peers. And
Right.
so that's what makes the in-person experience so valuable. And so the challenge has been, well, how do you get that experience online? And I think we've found a pretty great way. Like with a lot of platforms, if you're not familiar, there are, little chats where you get kind of bumped into this like group like this like chat room of like a portion of the class where it's just you and maybe 3 or 4 other people, and you do your group work and then you come back. And so the solutions are out there, and we're finding ways to use them. It's kind of forcing us to find ways to use them. And
Sure.
so that's really exciting. So it's here to stay. And what we are going to have to figure out is how do we, make sure that the people who are studying online are getting that same feeling that they're part of the Penn family that the people who are on campus are getting. And so I think we can achieve that through things like promotional products.
Right. And I would imagine that that's something that distributors and companies in the promotional products industry really should be talking to their school clients about, exactly how they can communicate and stay in touch with students of any age that are just remote, because that's going to continue.
Exactly.
So, Kate, what role do you see promotional products playing for schools in the next 8 to 12 months? Like we were just saying, there is a need to keep in touch and to make people feel connected to the school that they're in. Is that the main opportunity, or are there others?
I think that's one opportunity. One thing that actually Rich, the previous speaker, was just talking about that raised a flag, or raised my eyebrow, was he talked a little bit about, it's not just about your prospects, right? It's not just about marketing and revenue. It's also about your staff and your employees and retention and morale. And so I think there's an opportunity there too. Like as soon as we made the decision that we'd be working from home at Penn, they put together this pamphlet of like what that looks like, what returning to campus could potentially look like for people that still have to go there. They send us all beautiful masks with Penn's logo. And so, that made us feel like, okay, we can do this. This is the new norm. This is what's to be expected. And I'm proud to work for a university that's taking this on and leading the way. And so I think there's an opportunity there too.
Right. So staying on that, and before we let you go, what do you think are the 3 most important things that distributors can do to approach the education market and target clients like yourself? What do they need to do to ensure that this massive market that probably everybody on the line deals with in some way, how do they need to maybe shift how they approach somebody like yourself?
If I were a distributor, I've worked for a lot of different companies, and like someone mentioned, I worked for ASI as well. So I'm from the industry, so it's nice to have kind of both perspectives and a perspective from multiple industries. So if I were a distributor, I'd be thinking about the challenges companies are facing and how I can be part of these solutions, right? There's all new challenges we're facing. When I worked for Salesforce for a few years, and I worked with a vendor they were a mom and pop vendor out of Indianapolis. They were incredible. We worked so closely together. I was on a field marketing team at the time, so it was my job to really learn about every single company or prospect that we wanted to partner with. And so I got to know the company really well, the people that worked there, and then I would put together unique packages or just anything that would get their attention, and send it to them and hope for a call or to get a seat at the table when they're choosing vendors. And so this distributor that I worked with helped a lot with our logistics, which was great. So what they did was we would place an order with them for water bottles or notebooks and pens, what have you. They would keep everything for us, which was great because I worked in a tiny little New York office. I didn't have the space to hold everything. And I'm not a shipping machine, right? So I was like, oh, it was me. So
Right.
I needed help with that. And so they took on the shipping logistics. And I think back to that now because that's the problem we're facing in marketing, not just in education, but everywhere. Like everyone's
Right.
home. Like we're not going to be shipping stuff, these products from our houses. And so if there's any way you can offer that as a solution, I think that would be really helpful to people.
That's great. Are you home, by the way? That looks more like an office.
I am home.
Ah, you have a great home office background
Oh,
there.
thank
Much
you.
better than my sort of Windows, which I'm stuck with in my home office. But so, Kate, if you could give our audience one last piece of advice, what would it be? What do you think that they need to do to ensure that the education market is an opportunity for them in 2021, as opposed to something that they're almost shying away from?
Sure. And I'll speak not just to education, but also like all of the industries I've worked in so far. So, and I really learned this when I worked for Google. Some companies have teams that have their own budgets that aren't traditional, like part of a traditional company. So I would say, reach out to people outside of the marketing teams. Sometimes HR teams have budgets, right? Like I talked about employee morale and retention.
Hmm.
Sometimes the sales teams have their own budget. Sometimes there's so many sales teams within an organization that they can't all be going to marketing when they need support. They do it themselves. And we even had a team. It was like I don't know what they were called, but they were these like customer advocates, and it was their job to go out and touch influencers within
Mm.
companies. And so they would go out and just, whether it was like stickers for your laptop or just like anything that they could just put out in front of people to get them excited about the brand and working with us. So that would be my tip, think outside of the traditional box.
That's great. Well, that's perfect advice to leave on, because it's something that we're really focused on here today, is the idea of being flexible and trying new and unique things to target your clients with. So, Kate, thanks very much for joining us and for lending your ideas here today.
Thank you for having me.